Both Brooke Lynn and Chase had made up their minds to make a significant decision. When Brooke Lynn Quartermain arrived to Kelly's diner, she was seated at a small table and tapping her fingers against the cup of coffee she was holding. A significant lot of anxiety was being experienced by her at the time. To put it simply, she was not the kind of person who ever experienced anxiety. She had always been one to face life head-on, and it was in her nature to be brave and raucous. Brooke Lynn had always been like that. On the other hand, today was different, and she couldn't escape the sense that whatever happened here would change the way her life would unfold with Chase in a way that could not be reversed. At the precise moment when Detective Harrison Chase entered the diner, she glanced up in the direction of the ceiling. As he was looking about the establishment, his attention eventually came to rest on her. He smiled at her in a way that was so sweet that it caused her heart to skip a beat while she was in that moment. He strolled with a calm and confident posture, but she knew him well enough to notice the trace of worry in his own expression. This was despite the fact that he appeared to be comfortable and confident. In the process of sliding onto the seat opposite her, he began by saying, "Hey." He then proceeded to greet her. "Hey," she said in answer, and she tried to produce a smirk at the same time. "Thank you for making the effort to come and see me here. There was a neutral location that I was seeking for." A protrusion appeared on one of Chase's eyebrows. "Without any bias? Is it possible that we are in the process of negotiating a peace settlement, or what else could it be?" He told a joke in an attempt to lighten the mood and make everyone laugh. The giggle that Brooke Lynn gave was very endearing. "It's possible that we are." It was during this time that she took a deep breath as she searched for the proper words to express herself. "I have been giving a lot of consideration to the two of us, Chase, as of late here in this world. Taking into consideration everything that we have gone through, and the direction that we are looking to go." Chase offered a slight nod, his countenance getting more serious as he continued to do so. "As a matter of fact, I am as well. It would appear that there is a significant gap between us, both in terms of the positive and the negative sides of our relationship. To add insult to injury, I've been giving some serious thought to the matter of what the future genuinely contains for the two of us." Brooke Lynn experienced a wave of nerves throughout her body during the moment when she looked down at her coffee. "I am conscious of the fact that we have talked about the idea of taking things gently, but I am uncertain as to whether or not this tactic is still feasible for us going forward. We either have a complete commitment or we do not." Due to the fact that she did not wish to continue with this phrase, she paused for a moment. Chase, who was sitting on the opposite side of the table, reached out and gently placed his hand on top of hers. "I am conscious of that fact. If I may be so bold as to tell you the truth, I am of the opinion that we are ready to make a decision that is genuine with regard to us." As a result of the rapid beating of her heart, Brooke Lynn turned her attention upward toward him. "So, what exactly are you thinking?" He inhaled deeply and drew in a long breath. "I yearn for us to be together in a genuine way, my beautiful Brooke Lynn. I want us to be together, without any ambiguity or doubt. At the same time that I want us to make a commitment to one another as a couple, I also want us to make a commitment to each other as partners in everything that we do together." Despite the fact that the words he spoke caused her heart to leap, she could still feel a tinge of uneasiness hanging in the air. "Chase, are you really unquestionable? You are probably aware that my life is not exactly free of drama, and that the name Quartermain comes with a great lot of baggage. I am sure that you are aware of this." He let out a hearty laugh. "Take my word for it, I am well aware of this. Due to the fact that I have experienced enough, I am completely conscious of what I am about to embark onto. On the other hand, Brooke Lynn, I do not have any concerns regarding any of that. Even if it means that our relationship may take some unexpected twists, I want to be with you because I have feelings for you, and I want to be with you so badly. A wave of relaxation washed over her as she smiled broadly and savored the sensation of being at ease. All right, so how exactly does one go about making such an important decision? Is it feasible that we are looking into the possibility of moving in together? Is it possible to make our relationship known to the general public? In the beginning, Chase took a deep breath, and then he moved closer to the person. Why don't we give both of them a shot? I want to take the next step because I believe that it is time for everyone to know that we are together. I want to do this because I believe that it is time. Brooke Lynn, how about we move in together now? When she gave his comments some time to register, Brooke Lynn's eyes widened in response to what she had just heard. This was a big step, one that was much more significant than anything else they had done up until that point in time. On the other hand, as she continued to gaze at him, she became conscious of the fact that it was accurate. The situation was not only suitable, but it appeared to be exactly what they both needed at that moment. She whispered, "Oh my goodness," on the spot. "Moving in together is going to happen. Are you certain that you are prepared for this?" In his head, Chase let out a chuckle. "Despite the fact that I am aware that it is a serious matter, I am certain that it is the case. After a great deal of consideration, I have come to the conclusion that this is something that I do not wish to waste any more time on. You, Brooke Lynn, I want to lay the foundation for a life with you from the very beginning." A tingling feeling was felt in her eyes, and she felt discomfort. "Chase, I too would be interested in it. It is my hope that one day I will be able to wake up next to you, and that we will be able to share every facet of my life together." They gave each other a kind smile, and for a few moments, it appeared as though everything was completely okay. Soon after, Brooke Lynn's face reverted to a serious expression, indicating that she was once again serious. In a low whisper, she said, "There is one more thing that we need to talk about." Her voice was faint during their conversation. Chase only gave a small nod, as if he was already aware of the situation. "Hello, my name is Bailey." A big breath was taken by Brooke Lynn as she took a breath. "When it comes to me, Bailey is just like a member of my own family. Given the magnitude of the impact she has had on my life, I find it difficult to even conceive of a scenario in which she is absent from my existence. The fact that she is not my child is very evident to me. In addition to this, I am conscious of the fact that the circumstance involving her is a complicated one." A light pressure was applied to her hand by him. "Lynn, I am able to comprehend what you are saying. Without a shadow of a doubt, Bailey will continue to be a part of my life for the rest of my life, and I have no doubt that she will also continue to be a part of your life. To be successful, however, we will need to locate a compromise. Although I would like for us to build our own life together, if that is what you want, Bailey will always be a part of it. I hope that we can make our own life together." Brooke Lynn was engulfed in a calm and peaceful wave of happiness. "It is exactly what I am looking for, that is for sure. I have a strong want to be a part of her life, but at the same time, I want us to create something that is intended simply for the two of us to share together." Chase gave a head nod while smiling in a way that expressed both warmth and comprehension. "After that, every one of us will work together to find it out. We are going to be a family through and through at all times, regardless of the form that makes the most sense for us." She felt a surge of happiness well up inside of her as she came to the knowledge that Chase had a significant degree of understanding for her. At that very moment, She was conscious of the fact that she was ready for everything that was going to occur after that, provided that they were going to face it together. And with a smile on her face, she replied, "Okay, let's get this done, shall we? Do you think it would be possible for us to start this new chapter together by moving in together?" A pure and genuine joy could be seen on Chase's face at that moment. "I really can't wait any longer." They stayed at Kelly's for the remainder of the morning, during which time they talked about all they wanted for their future. During their time there, they discussed everything. At the same time that they were joking around and discussing their objectives, they were simultaneously making arrangements to start looking for apartments. Brooke Lynn had genuine joy for the very first time in a very long time. And she was so excited about the possibility of the life she was building with Chase that she couldn't contain her excitement. During the time when they were leaving the diner hand in hand, she was positive that this was only the beginning of their relationship. In spite of the fact that they had encountered a great deal of success as well as failure, they were now ready to develop something that was genuine and would last for a long time. It was possible for them to triumph over any obstacle when they collaborated with one another. Moreover, as they marched into the future together, Brooke Lynn was conscious of the fact that this momentous choice was the best option that they had ever made in their entire lives. Holly is not going to accept the offer. Holly Sutton paced nervously across the floor of the lounge room of the Metro Court while she waited for Robert Scorpio to arrive. She was anxious about his forthcoming arrival. Taking a deep breath, she told herself that she was capable of overcoming this obstacle, regardless of the consequences that would result from the circumstance that she would bring about as a result of her actions. Due to the fact that she had been protecting her feelings for Robert for such a considerable amount of time, she had been holding out hope that there was still a possibility for them to be together. To the contrary, she had the intention of putting her own feelings to the test today for the very first time. Robert gave off the impression of being as self-assured as he normally is at the first moment that he arrived. Although Holly's heart was touched by his recognized smile, she was able to perceive the seriousness in his stare, even as she smiled back at him. He couldn't help but be curious as he waited for her to make the first public statement. Holly was received by him with a warm greeting, and he asked, "You wanted to meet?" "Yes," she said, making an attempt to remain in a regular tone of voice during the conversation. She made a move toward the table, and both of them sat down at it before she continued. For a little moment, Holly did nothing but contemplate the man who had been the object of her adoration for such a considerable amount of time. She did nothing but look at him. She was conscious of the fact that Robert's life had always been complicated, with a life that was filled with responsibilities and decisions that were difficult to make. However, she was also conscious of the fact that she could no longer hide the feelings that she was going through at that moment. She began by addressing him as Robert, while simultaneously making eye contact with him. "I have something very important to tell you." After a brief period of uncertainty, she eventually mustered the determination to move forward with the plan. "On the contrary, I have not entirely severed ties with you. In spite of the passage of so much time, I continue to have a deep worry for you. It is not lost on me that we have experienced both highs and lows, and that the circumstances have not been straightforward. On the other hand, I would like to inquire as to whether or not there is a possibility that we may collaborate. If we were to give it another shot, would that be possible?" Despite the fact that Robert's demeanor had become more relaxed, she was still able to perceive the concern that was present in his eyes. He took a few long breaths before responding, and it was clear that he was selecting his words with a great deal of care to ensure that they were appropriate. His first words were spoken in a low tone, and they were as follows: "Holly, I care about you for the same reason. I still have it to this day. It is very important to me that we have a history together since you are one of the most important people in my life. And the fact that we have history together is really crucial to me. Having said that, I believe it is imperative that I tell you the truth. At this very time, you and I are not in the same position as one another. Because of the changes that have occurred in my feelings over the course of my life, I do not believe that I am able to provide you with the kind of connection that you are contemplating. The moment Holly realized what he had spoken, her heart sank to its lowest point. Even though the pain was swiftly spreading throughout her body, she forced herself to nod in spite of the rapid development of the pain. This response did not make it any easier for her to take it in, despite the fact that she had been anticipating it throughout the entire process. The words "thank you for being honest with me" were whispered in a quiet voice as she looked down at her hands. She was grateful for this honesty. In spite of the fact that she could feel tears prickling at the corners of her eyes, she remained resolute in her determination to not be overpowered by them. Due to the fact that she was so pleased with herself, she was unable to shed tears in front of him. As Robert approached her from the opposite side of the table, he extended his hand and gently took her hand. "My apologies, Holly. I had no intention of being a nuisance to you. The last thing I want to do is desire for something that isn't actually happening. Being with someone who is able to give you their complete and undivided attention, and who is able to be there for you in the manner that you require is something that you deserve. I don't really believe that I am that person anymore. I know that I am not." While she was swallowing quite forcefully, she made a concerted effort to keep her voice from breaking. "You are correct, Robert. I do understand. In point of fact, I do. The course of our lives has taken us in different directions, and both of us have developed over the course of our lives. It's just, I think it's harder to take than I had anticipated." He gave a nod while displaying a sorrowful grimace. "Listen to me when I say that I, too, find this to be a challenging situation. We have been through a lot of things together, and I will always treasure what we had. Because of this, I will always cherish what we had. Personally, I believe that it is time for both of us to move on with our lives. I truly believe that you are deserving of happiness, Holly." Holly was able to summon up a smirk on her face while she was making an effort to take a reluctant breath. "It seems to me that you are quite right. Mostly due to the fact that I have been clinging to the past for an excessively long time, don't you think?" Despite the fact that it was tinged with melancholy, the grin that Robert offered her back was still present. When it comes to holding to certain happy memories, there is absolutely no wrong with doing so. From the opposite side of the coin, it might be time for the two of us to come up with some new ones. Both of them were engrossed in recollections of what had occurred in the past, and they sat in silence for a brief period of time. Despite the fact that it was agonizing, Holly had a great desire to cling to this moment, although it was excruciating. At that moment, she was conscious of the fact that this was the last time she would ever permit herself to feel about him in such a manner. Although she was conscious of the fact that she would always love him, even if it was in a different way, she had no choice but to continue on without him. After she had finally broken the silence, she continued by saying, "Well, I think it's time that I started focusing on myself for a change. It is possible that I will go on a trip if I want to get my thoughts sorted and experience what life has in store for me." A grin appeared on Robert's face. "Holly, I would like to express my opinion that it is an outstanding idea. Since you were a child, you have always had a natural talent for finding new and intriguing activities. I am certain that you will make the most of this opportunity. I have no doubt about it." She offered a tiny nod, feeling a sense of relief as she came to grips with his remarks. She was enjoying a sense of relief. "Robert, it is a pleasure to know you. when it comes to everything. One thing that I will never forget is the fact that we shared something in common. In the moments leading up to his release of his hold on her hand, he gave it one last squeeze. Just like you, Holly, I won't be doing it. In the event that you find yourself in need of a companion, you may rely on me to be here for you immediately. Holly offered a small nod, indicating a blend of gratitude and regret in spite of her expression. She was conscious of the fact that he had honorable motives, but she was also conscious of the fact that she could not continue to rely on him. Independently moving forward was something that was required of her. She leaned over to him and said, "Goodbye, Robert," as she glanced at him after she had risen from the table. "Be sure to look after yourself." "Goodbye, Holly," he muttered as he saw her leave, while he was still doing his conversation with her. When Holly was exiting the Metro Court, she was confronted with a curious juxtaposition of emotions. She was experiencing a sense of relief within her body at the same time as her heart was in pain. This was the very first time that she had confronted her feelings, and she suddenly became conscious of the position that she was in. Despite the fact that the conclusion did not live up to her expectations, she was able to move on with her life without having to be concerned about what if what happened. As soon as she went outside, she took a deep breath and felt the fresh air fill her lungs. Subsequently, she took yet another deep breath. It was at that same moment when the sun was beginning to set, casting a warm glow over the city of Port Charles. It had been a very long time since she had experienced this sensation, but she suddenly got the impression that she was ready to let go of the past and turn her attention to the future. Holly was well aware that it would not be an easy procedure. Under certain circumstances, she would find that she was missing him, and she would think back on the time that they had spent together. But she was also conscious of the fact that she was able to deal with it because she had the strength to do so. There was a life that needed to be lived, an adventure that needed to be explored, and dreams that needed to be pursued by her. Holly came to the insight that there are times when saying goodbye is the most brave thing that one can do. This realization occurred as she was departing in the process of leaving. And deep within her being, she was conscious of the fact that this was the first step that she was taking toward a new beginning. Rick Lansing is seen paying Anna Devane a visit, as per the observations. An aura of tension prevailed in the office of Anna Devane, which is located within the Philadelphia Police Department. An almost rhythmic pulse was produced by the sound of raindrops tapping against the window, creating the idea that nature itself could sense the intensity that was building up inside the room. This was the impression that was formed. Anna sat at her desk and glanced through the case files that were stored within it. Her sharp eyes furrowed in concentration as she did so. Due to the fact that she was currently in the midst of an investigation, she had been on edge for a few days. Her concentration was broken at that particular moment by a knock on the door. She said, "Come in," without looking up, and her tone of voice was firm, but not unwelcoming. She did not look up. Rick Lansing, a person that she had not interacted with for a considerable amount of time, entered the room as soon as the door was opened. It had been quite some time since she had last seen him. Anna greeted him with a soothing tone and called him by his given name, Rick. She raised her eyes to meet his and inspected him with meticulous attention to detail, displaying the attention to detail that is characteristic of an experienced investigator. The fact that Rick had a history of being the good guy, who always seemed to have a hidden agenda that made him difficult to trust, did not make it easy for her to place her faith in him. She was always dubious about him because of this. It is the name Anna, a glimmer of charm that had previously worked wonders for Rick in his legal profession, appeared to be worn and exhausted now given his current condition of circumstances. Rick gave a tiny smile, a glimmer of charm that had worked wonders for him in the past. An extended period of time has passed. In response, Anna raised her eyebrow. This is a fact. You are in this location for what reason? There is a nagging feeling that, contrary to appearances, this is not a social call. Before crossing the opposite side of the room and taking a seat without waiting for an invitation, Rick let out a soft giggle and then proceeded to join the conversation. As he looked over her desk, which was cluttered with files, maps, and documents that could be deemed evidence of the case that was taking up her time, his gaze moved over her desk from top to bottom. Upon hearing this, he leaned back in his chair and responded by saying, "You are as direct as you have ever been. That isn't my respect." With a steady gaze, Anna remained steadfast in her determination to not give him the opportunity to take control of the conversation. There are a lot of various things going on right now, so if it's okay with you, let's skip the niceties for a while. Rick, I have a lot of different things going on right now. What is your reason for being here? Rick's smile vanished out of nowhere, and in its place, he suddenly adopted a more sad attitude. It has been brought to my attention that you have been facing a number of challenges. Having the opportunity to be of aid was available to me. Anna was displaying a skeptical demeanor, as seen by the fact that her arms were crossed. Can you lend a hand? Where did you get it? During the most recent instance in which you offered aid, sadly, things did not go very well for anyone who was involved. As Rick came to an understanding of the reason for her hesitation, he let out a sigh. Listen, I am conscious of the fact that I have made mistakes. When we are being fair, we must acknowledge that there are more than a few of them. This time around, however, things are not the same as they were before. Anna cocked her head to the side as she observed him observing her. So, Rix, what exactly is the difference? For as long as you can remember, you have been preoccupied with your own unique interests. When it comes to this matter, why should I not believe you? Anna was taken aback by the glimpse of vulnerability that came in Rick's eyes when he looked back up after a brief moment of his eyes being locked on the ground. Rick's eyes had been fixed on the ground for a brief moment. I am conscious of the fact that I have participated in things that could be considered questionable. On the other hand, I am exerting a lot of effort to get everything in order. A deep breath was taken by him as he was in the process of arranging his thoughts. There is information that I have that could be of service to you, and I am in possession of it. With regard to the people who you are trying to locate. Anna's glance caused Anna's eyes to narrow. What about what you know? Rick's tone got more muted as he leaned forward in his statement. A few people who are connected to the inquiry that you are working on have been under my watchful eye, and I have been keeping an eye on them. Those individuals who are averse to leaving things incomplete or unsolved. Anna, you are getting closer, and that is a very dangerous situation. However, she did not feel that she was entirely convinced. Are you under the impression that I am not aware of it? That risk is something that I am exposed to on a daily basis. Rick continued to look at her with an unruffled expression on his face. I am not here to give you instructions on how to function in your responsibilities. There is a possibility that you might not have access to the resources that I possess. But I do possess them contacts who are able to supply you with knowledge that is not currently recorded in the books. Anna stayed silent for a brief amount of time, her thoughts racing as she weighed the various benefits and drawbacks of accepting Rick's offer. While she was thinking about these things, she remained silent. As a neighbor and a friend, she did not see Rick Lansing as someone to be taken lightly. In the course of his relationships with other people, he constantly straddled the line between good and wrong, truth and deception. He was as slippery as they come. Do you still have any connections to these individuals? Her question was asked in a manner that revealed a degree of skepticism on her part. With a melancholy smile flickering over his lips, Rick shrugged his shoulders and walked away. It is possible that I have moved on from that existence. Yet, let's just say that certain connections are tough to sever. Even though she was doubting his reasons for doing what he was doing, Anna couldn't help but feel a spark of fascination. She couldn't help but be intrigued by him. During the course of her investigation, she had come across a few roadblocks, and if Rick did in fact possess information that may be of assistance, then doing so was something that ought to be taken into consideration at the very least. Her response was all right, and she did it with a tone of authority in her voice. "Tell me what you know" is an often used phrase. Rick's relaxation was prompted by the expression of contentment that showed on his face, which induced him to recline over. "There will be a shipment arriving the next week," the speaker said. "All of the individuals that you are looking for are associated with it in some fashion. Objects such as drugs, firearms, and other commonplace objects are listed. In the event that you are successful in intercepting it, you will find a lead that has the potential to entirely expose this case." There was a small nod from Anna, and her thoughts were already beginning to formulate a plan. However, Rick's subsequent comments caused her to stop dead in her tracks. Additionally, he stated, "There is only one catch," as his eyes displayed a spark of something that was not legible. He continued to reiterate this. "Of course there is," Anna whispered as she folded her arms over her chest and leaned back in her chair. "Rick, what exactly is it that you attempt to find?" A more kind expression appeared on Rick's face, and for a little moment, she was under the assumption that he was showing true regret for what he had done. "My goal is to obtain immunity. I would want not to be placed on the same level as the rest of them in the event that my name is brought up in conversation. I am, however, able to go without any repercussions being imposed upon me." There was a surge of wrath that Anna experienced, but she was able to keep it under control. "The price that you are asking for, is that right? Would you like me to ensure that you won't have to face with any consequences as a result of your actions?" It was possible to detect a hint of anger in Rick's smile as he shrugged his shoulders. "The people you are seeking for do not exactly have a favorable opinion of me, despite the fact that I am aware that this is not the best possible situation. If given the chance, they would not hesitate for a moment before throwing me under the bus. They would not even think twice about it." Anna was torn between her desire to solve the case and her dissatisfaction with Rick's actions, and Rick's self-centered thinking was a source of frustration for her. Anna felt divided between the two competing desires. On the other hand, in order for her to have the chance to answer this enigma in its entirety, she had to pay a price. "Fine," she said when there was a brief pause in the discourse to take place. "In the event that you choose to disobey me, or if this turns out to be another one of your games, I will make certain that you are forced to face every consequence that you have earned. I will not let you get away with it." Rick's smile came back onto his face, and there was a trace of his former allure visible in every corner of the room. "It makes sense to do so. I am willing to take the risk that is being offered to me." He got to his feet and made some adjustments to his jacket just as he was getting ready to go. "You have my best wishes, Anna. For some reason, I have a feeling that you are going to need it." When he was going to enter the building, Anna called after him just as he was standing there. "Rick, there is one more concern to address." A curious expression could be seen in his eyes as he investigated his surroundings. "How come it is now?" Her tone of speaking became more muted, almost as if she was seeking for something. "After everything that has happened, Why do you come to me now?" While Rick was pausing, it was impossible to read the expression on his face. Let's just say that even someone like me shouldn't be able to turn down an opportunity to put things right, every once in a while. Subsequently, he vanished without a trace, leaving Anna to contemplate her beliefs on her own. Despite the fact that she was conscious of the fact that she should not place her complete trust in him, she was unable to deny the fact that his expertise was beneficial. While she would accept his support for the time being, she would keep a low profile in order to protect her privacy. When everything is taken into account, Rick Lansing was never someone who should be minimized. As Anna watched the rain fall through the window, she felt a range of emotions, including excitement and apprehension. In her mind, she had the impression that she was going to make a choice. Despite the fact that this inquiry was about to get more difficult, she was hopeful that with Rick's tip, she would finally have the breakthrough she required to move forward with the investigation. In addition, Rick would be ready for everything that she attempted to do without hesitation.